I'm backing up my truck, I'm gonna hook it up, loading up my boat with all my gear. I've been working hard all week, trying to make ends meet, spending time wishing I was fishing. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing. Gather up your gear and come along. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing.
This is Terry Wickstrom. Join Karen Cullum, Greg Claudio, and me as we take you to some of our favorite fishing spots from Colorado to Minnesota, the Arctic Circle to Central America and beyond. As we revisit episodes of Mountain States Fishing and Angling Adventures Television on the best of fishing with Terry Wickstrom.
Hey, today we're out, we're just west of Loveland. We're on the Big Thompson River. You probably recognize this lady, Janice O'Shea. Janice, it's great to have you on the show
Terry,
again.
Thanks. Good to be here.
You've kind of been our go-to people for knowledgeable fly fishing advice and helping us put together some of these shows. But we know that a lot of the people that watch are beginning fly fishing people, or they're fly fishing people with little experience, or we all can use a little help.
Right.
So I'm going to eventually step aside today, and I'm going to let Janice has a special guest with us today, Barb. And would you like to introduce Barb
Yes,
Yee?
this is Barb Yee.
Yes,
and she
hi.
was in one of my classes this past summer, and we're going to take her out on the water and show you what she can do, what she's learned in the class. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we really want to try to bring some of that classroom instruction right to the water.
Right.
Now we're fishing today on public water. This is the Big Thompson River, just between Loveland and Estes Park.
Right.
And prior to today, how many rainbows have you caught on a fly rod?
3.
3. So really this is a great, and you're a student, so we're really looking, so we want to show you that it doesn't take a lot of experience to get out and really enjoy some of these Colorado waters, and kind of teach you also what the value of spending some time with a guide teacher like Janice can do for you. Well, Janice, I'm going to step aside, let you and Barb do some fishing, and we'll let the folks watch you do your thing.
Sounds good.
Good
Thanks,
luck.
Terry.
Good luck, Barb.
Thank you.
Thanks. And what I'd like to do is take a look at the different types of water we're going to be fishing. Barb was in my class this summer, and we've decided to come up to the Big Thompson because it is fishing very well. This is a pocket water type of river, and right here we're looking right here into the water for any trout that we see along the banks or in the water. First of all, we want to check to see if there's any trout along the banks before we even walk into this water. And I also like to look at the water I'm interested in fishing to see if it even has the potential of holding trout. And this particular piece of water does. What we're seeing right here is a really fast food highway, very quick water, and then on both sides of that we're seeing slow water. So that's called a seam. And we like to fish seams. We fish where light meets dark, deep meets shallow, and fast meets slow. So I see a really nice food highway right here. And I don't see any trout in this area, so we can actually go right down this bank and then step right into the water and fish this seam, working our way out towards the middle. You see the foam along the river, and this is your food highway, and this is where the food is being dispersed, and we see it along here. Sometimes you'll see trout early in the morning hovering right along the banks of the river in 3 to 6 inches of water. Another thing, after you find the piece of water you're going to be fishing and also get an idea of where you're going to be positioning yourself, we go down and seine the water, and we find out what the trout are feeding on by seining in the area that you're going to be fishing. Should we move upstream or downstream, we're going to be seining again, because we've got some different insects in this fast water versus insects in the slower water. So we have to pay attention to that. What we're going to be doing now, and while we're standing here, we've been observing while we've been talking, and we're observing that, well, there aren't any trout coming up in this water, is there? I mean, I haven't seen any trout coming up. And so that tells me I think we're going to start nymphing. And nymphing is basically fishing below the surface of the water with a nymph or 2. I usually like to rig up 2 nymphs. Barb and I are going to seine this water. We're going to be fishing in this general vicinity, so that's where we're going to seine, but we want to seine to where we don't disturb the water we're going to be fishing. You don't have to go right out to the middle of the river and seine. You can seine it from the banks here. You can seine it by turning a rock over and taking a look at what's underneath the rock, Or, this is my big teaching seine. You don't need a seine quite this big, but they do sell seines in fly shops that you can put over your net and stick it in the water and collect insects as they come down the river. This is the best way to find out what trout are feeding on. What I'm going to do, Barb, is have you come out here, and she's going to stand about, yeah, come on up, about 2 to 3 feet in front of my seine up here. And what she's going to do is just kick up some rocks, and the substrate from what she kicks up and the organisms from what she kicks up will float down into my net seine, and then we'll take a look at what's coming off of these rocks. Okay, let's take a look and see what happens here. Okay, what we're seeing in the net seine is very, very tiny mayfly nymphs. A mayfly is an aquatic insect, and these are very tiny mayfly nymphs. If you're looking at a hook size, I'd say, what hook size? That looks like about a 20. Very tiny. And also we're seeing some larvae, some midge larvae. You can see that midge larva right over there on the, almost right in the middle. It's real white in color, but that's very tiny too. So we're seeing some midge larvae. On the top of the surface, you'll want to take a look and see while you're in here what's coming down on top of the surface of the water, because that tells us sometimes what's under the water, what has just come up from the bottom of the river. So we not only pay attention to what's on the bottom by seining, but we also want to pay attention to what's on top of the river. So we're going to go ahead and just do some nymphing. And I think from what we saw in the seine, even though there wasn't that much, I'd like to try a mayfly nymph pattern and also a midge pattern. So a good mayfly nymph pattern on this river might be a pheasant tail, beadhead flashback pheasant tail. Okay. And then a nymph pattern might be, say for example, we can mix and match to a black beauty, what we call out here a black beauty, or we can try a WD-40, which are Colorado patterns to use for midges. So I'm going to mix and match and see what happens. And we're going to fish with 2 flies, and we'll nymph this piece of water right here, and especially over on the other side, and go from there. And I'm going to demonstrate to Barb how to do this technique of nymphing called high stick nymphing, or what we call short line nymphing. And ideally what I want to do is when my indicators hit the water, I want my indicators moving just slightly slower than the speed of the surface water. Okay? So I'm going to throw it out, and this hand coordination is really important between right hand and left hand. Once my indicators hit the water, I've got to do 2 things very, very quickly, and that is I've got to transfer this line from my left hand to my right hand, and then I want to lift all the line off the water up to that first indicator with a nice U in the line, a nice relaxed U. But these indicators, if you can see, they're just floating a little bit slower than the speed of the surface water. Now a lot of people at the end of their cast, when the line is down here, they'll rip the line up off the water and start over again up here. And ideally what you'd like to do is bring your rod up very slowly, because you could get a hit down here. Release the line from your rod hand, the rod tip comes way up to the sky, bring the rod tip down, transfer the line to your rod hand and lift. And this is called high stick nymphing or short line nymphing. My rod tip is directly over my indicators as they move downstream. I'm not in front of them or I'm not behind them. And these indicators need to be moving very gently, just like an insect on top of the surface of the water. The indicator I'm watching is going to be the white indicator for any slight hesitation, and I'm going to set my hook when I see that happen. The transfer of this line to my right hand helps me to set the hook. So this transfer is very important. Transfer, lift. This is what sets the hook. When I set the hook, I come back quickly, come up quickly with the rod tip and set the hook. Quickly, like this.
Great.
Now Barb, how long have you been fishing?
Oh, since the summer.
The summer. So she's fairly new to fishing. This is what, your 3rd time out? 4th time out?
4th time.
Okay. Now you're already doing well, and with beginners I start them with high stick nymphing or short line nymphing. I think it's a little bit easier for them to learn and to get the drift down. Good. Now you can reach out with your arm. Excellent. Now you notice these indicators are moving pretty quickly, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So I want to slow them down a little
They're
bit. Now that we're in fast water, I have to make an adjustment, and the adjustment is that I'm going to add a little bit more weight to my line. Okay, we've covered this area pretty well. Let's take a step forward. Watch your step. There's a lot of rocks in this river. And let's go now, make our next cast to the other side of that, where that slow meets fast, on the other side of that fast water.
Whoa,
That's
wrong
okay.
place.
If you make a cast that you don't like, play it out. Don't rip the
I
line
was
off
just
the
gonna
water.
rip it off the water.
Yeah, don't. Just go ahead and play it out. Okay, good.
Is that just not to distract any fish down
Right,
there?
yeah, sometimes ripping the line off the water will. That's excellent. Now lift the line up. Now you see where, if you were to mend here, it would be almost impossible. So we lift the line up so our line isn't caught on that water. Good, now lower the rod, and your line needs to be in that rod hand. There you
Okay.
go, okay. Let's make another cast,
Oh,
okay.
too close.
Whenever you make a cast, you always want to look first before you make the cast.
Okay, where I want it to go.
Yep. Go set it, good. Okay.
Oops.
Okay, that's okay.
Just what
That's
you were
good.
saying.
Okay, now I want
Tree's
you to
almost got
square
it.
up. Your left foot's in front of your right a little bit, and I want you to square up to the bank. There you go. Okay, good. And line up, rod up. There you go, so that water doesn't catch you. That's excellent. Get your leader up, Barb. Get your leader up. There you go. Excellent. Yeah.
Oh, I think I got
Good job.
I don't know if I
we're going to
said
use
it.
a reel it in, and keep your rod up, and you want to keep it bent. Very good. Oh, that's a nice trout. Oh no, now wait, hang on just a second, Barb. See where you don't want the fly line coming in your rod guides.
Oh,
Keep the fly line out.
should I bring them
and-
towards you?
Yeah, you can lift your rod up, and when you bring it in to my net, I want you to bring it in with its head up. You want to keep
Head
that
up.
fly line outside. There you go. Nice fish.
Good.
Let's bring it over here. Look at this trout. Look at this rainbow.
Oh, he's
This girl is
beautiful.
good. Let me take your rod, and I'm going to have you turn around and face the camera here, and we'll try to notice that we're keeping the
Him in the water.
him and the rainbow with the water. This is a beautiful rainbow,
He
and I
is
want to try to
pretty.
hold this up to the camera because that's a beautiful, beautiful
Oh, that is
wild
nice.
rainbow in this water. And what did he take? Boy, they're spunky, they're strong. This is
Was it
about a
the-
16-inch rainbow. Now I'm going to give them to you. I want you to go ahead and drop that.
To myself.
And then I want to have you wet your hands first before you handle him. And now I'm going to have you hold him up to the camera if you can. You might have to. There you go. Watch out. Oh,
Whoa, I lost him.
Okay, that's okay.
Well,
Good job.
someone else will
Okay.
get him.
Okay, good. Okay. In other words, I don't like to repeat. I'll repeat about 5 to 7 times where my cast goes in a lane, and then after that I'm in a different lane. Good, that's great. Look at that. Very nice. Set it. Oh, harder set than that, okay? Okay. Good. Got to be aggressive with that set.
Okay.
Are you having fun?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay, I'm going to be aggressive with the setting.
Good set.
Well,
Excellent. That was a strike. Never think that your indicators are going down because of a rock or a twig or branch or rock or whatever. It's always a fish, always a trout. So you always want to set your hook. Yeah, okay, now.
I didn't set the hook.
No, and you didn't transfer. You need to transfer that line. This is a nice rainbow coming in. And he took that midge. Let's bring him right up here, keep its head up, and bring him right into my net. I want you to,
Here he comes.
okay, good. Okay, let's take a look at this guy. Boy, he's nice. He took the midge WD-40. That's a nice
Oh, how
rainbow
beautiful.
in there. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get the hook out and hold him up. Oh, and I got him out.
With
And I'm
that
gonna go ahead and
sun
hold him
shining
up.
on him.
And
gorgeous.
he can stop wiggling around any day. And I'm going to go ahead. I keep him in the water, and I'm going to go ahead and hold him up if I can get him out of here, out of my net. It's a pretty, pretty rainbow. The Big Thompson, Colorado River rainbow. We've come to another part of the river, and this is a little bit slower moving water. We don't have the fast moving water. Some of the parts are fast moving, but this is basically just a run. This is what we call a run, Barb. And up above us we have some riffles, some rapids, and now it's a run. And I would say this is probably about 3 to 4 feet deep, maybe a little bit deeper over by that rock. Well, this is a great place to demonstrate the other technique. Slackline nymphing is the second technique we're going to work on. And basically you're just throwing line on the water in line with the indicators. And we're not trying to create drag with the indicators, but we're throwing line out, and that helps the drift of the fly and also slows it down a little bit so that we don't need to add as much weight on the line as we would with tight line nymphing. With slackline nymphing, you want to make sure that the indicators are moving the same speed as the surface water. And I'm going to keep working this water in front of me, but notice how I'm doing this very meticulously. And when I'm walking in this water, I want to walk very slowly and not make a lot of noise. Okay? Now this is tight line nymphing or high stick nymphing that I'm doing right now. But should I make a cast a little bit farther out and not want to, or can't go any farther than this because of the flows, or because I don't want to spook the trout, now I've got to make a little bit longer cast. And I'll show you, it's going to be an up and across cast. I'm going to transfer the line to my rod hand, but my rod tip is a little bit lower to the water, and I'm going to mend line by making a big circle with my rod tip counterclockwise when it's upstream cast, transfer, mend, 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 roll line on the water, in line with the indicators. I'm going to roll line the other way, give it some line, mend, mend. I can get a real long drift with this. You have to take a look at the surface water and how it's moving and mend your line accordingly. I'm going to let it swing down here. You get a lot of hits down here. I'm going to retrieve some line in, bring my rod straight up, make a cast, transfer. Now it's moving in close. I'm going to lay some line on the water, mend. And watch, while you're moving this rod tip, watch your indicator. The thing about setting the hook when you're slackline nymphing is that you'll have to set the hook a little more vigorously than you would if you were tight line nymphing. Mend, 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 mend. Now mend the other way. Now sometimes you'll notice that the indicators are moving when you're mending. That's okay. That's almost sometimes impossible to keep from doing that. One thing you might try is to give yourself more line, jiggle the rod tip out, and then mend, and you won't move the indicators as much. But on some rivers, that's actually a pretty good idea too. And I'm catching all of your fish. Okay, this feels like a little bit longer pull. Now I'm going to retrieve this slack in my reel. And I'm going to hold my rod up, right, and I'm going to play it off the reel. There's actually another fish going after. I may have two fish on my line. I thought I had two fish on my line at first. Notice how I keep the rod up and bent, and I'm going to bring this guy in. I'm going to try to keep line outside the rod tip and keep his head up when I bring him in, and I'm going to bring him in. This is a nice rainbow, and it's about 12 inches, and they're beautiful.
Looks like you got that bottom hook too.
You got the bottom one again. Beautiful rainbows in this water. These rainbows in the Big Thompson range anywhere from 8-10 inches all the way up to, I've seen them up as high as 16 inches, 18 inches. It's a beautiful rainbow.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today and letting us bring you on TV and showing that being our student, and we're glad you had a really good time. You know, before I say goodbye, we do have another special guest with us today.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Nahanni, who is a Newfoundland, and he's taking a little bit of a break right now, but he's a great dog. He's a trained water rescue dog, and I want you to get a good look at his face. Nahanni, up here, there you go. He's a great fishing dog, and he's a dog one of my guides owns, and he came out with us today to enjoy the day out here. So he's a good dog.
He's been just a wonderful guy to have along.
Absolutely.
Gave me somebody to talk
company.
to while you gave me somebody to talk to while you ladies were fishing.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't recommend enough to just get out and experience the fishing opportunities that exist in the Mountain States region. We're here on a public river just a few miles west of Loveland, Colorado, the Big Thompson. You saw the fishing was tremendous. Of course, we had a tremendous angler teaching us how and showing us. Get out, enjoy these opportunities.